Hi, everyone, and welcome to the preview show delivered by FedEx. I'm Marty Snider from NBC Sports. This is Chris Rice from College Racing, also our crew chief here at NASCAR.com. Race number one of the chase in the books. Martin Truex Jr. wins. So what did you learn at Chicagoland that's really going to give us a hint of what to expect the next 9 weeks?
Well, I would say you cannot make mistakes, but everyone made mistakes. Even down to Rodney Childress making a mistake on pit road. But who rose to the top? Martin Truex Jr., Cole Pearn. That whole group shows you they're here to win a championship, and it looks like they might.
You mentioned the mistakes. I mean, you mentioned Rodney Childress. They never really recovered from that from Kevin Harvick when they got that lap down. The 20, the 18, and the 48, all with speeding penalties. You also had the 42 with a late tire issue. The 78 had a tire issue during the race, so tons of mistakes and tons of problems for the chasers. Yet the 78 able to recover from that mistake and that issue. What does that tell you about that race team?
Well, that race team shows us that they have speed. They're doing everything they need to do to just cover all bases. Even though they had a problem, they fixed it, didn't panic, and rose back to the top to win the race.
For the 78, the bigger problem was after the race. Second week in a row, they fail the LIS, post-race inspection, the laser. What do you do if you're Cole Pearn? How do you make sure it doesn't happen a third week in a row? Because there's a multiplier, and that could really hurt them eventually in the chase.
Well, I've seen a lot of people talk about this. Okay, so when they say LIS, it's a laser machine that inspects where our wheels are on our race car, inside our race car. So everybody tries to push the limit to get all the downforce they can. And when you're pushing the limit on a bumpy racetrack, you're going to get caught at the end of the race. So you just got to take all of that stuff out of your race car because the next penalty is going to be even bigger. So I don't feel they need that. They have speed no matter what.
So play it more conservative.
Correct.
If you're Cole Pearn.
A lot more conservative.
That's the easiest way to do it for the rest of the chase.
I did, so he just got to.
Yeah, Mr. Crew Chief over here did it on his race team. All right, the most disappointed driver leaving Chicagoland, no doubt Chase Elliott. This is twice in the last couple of weeks he's been leading late in the race. Caution comes out. They don't get the win. If you're Alan Gustafson this week, what do you say to Chase? I mean, he handled it very well post-race, but what do you say to him this week to make sure he's still engaged and trying to win a championship?
Let's remember, he is a kid. He's not his dad yet. Alan's got to go, hey, bud, you're fast. You're contending for wins. We got to figure out how to close the game here. We got to figure out how to finish the race, and you'll be fine. You keep bringing speed to the racetrack, Chase, you're going to win a race. That's all he's got to tell him. That's all he's got to tell him.
And you know what? It's funny. His maturity kind of makes you forget he's 20 years old, you know?
He's still young.
Right.
Let's think about it. He's still young.
He's still a kid, as you mentioned. No doubt about it for Chase Elliott. All right, New Hampshire this weekend. Now, this is one of the few racetracks where it's a chase race, but we saw kind of a preview a few weeks ago. We were here just in the middle of July at New Hampshire. What did we learn in that race that's kind of a clue for this weekend?
Well, I did say this was a race that you needed to go into and say, hey, this is a race that's very important in the chase, so we need to learn everything we can. I watched the Gibbs cars do what they do, and they just figured out how to go fast. The 20 car ended up winning, but I look at Penske to say, okay, this is a turning race for those guys because they are fast at New Hampshire, and they were fast at Chicagoland, so they have to go into that race it as hard as they can because they only have 2 more before the next round. So I don't think it's about how fast you can go through the race. You got to figure out how to win.
Certainly takes pressure off when you do get it to victory lane. All right, speaking of that, who are we going to pick to go to victory lane? I'll let you go first, Mr. Rice.
Well, I stuck my foot in my mouth last week on Twitter, and I told Marty, who did I pick? The 4 car? And then he goes, he picked the 78. So, okay. So I'm going to take the 4 car again. I feel Rodney Childress, he's a short track racer, so I like those guys to go and be fast at New Hampshire. They're not only going to be competitive, they're going to win the race this weekend.
Kevin Harvick, no doubt, will be a factor this weekend. I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. I agree with you. Team Penske's brought a little more speed.
You didn't tell me that before.
I did not tell you that before because I was going to sneak it in there. And always good at New Hampshire. I think that speed sort of maybe surprised the drivers a little bit. They thought they were going to take a big step at Charlotte. They kind of came with some speed at Chicagoland, so I think they're always tough at this type of racetrack. So I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. Make sure you keep it parked right here on NASCAR.com all weekend long, live leaderboards, in-car audio, all the news before and after the New Hampshire race. And, of course, if someone fails post-race inspection, you'll hear it about here first, no doubt about it. Hopefully it's not Chris Rice, right? So
that's right.
We'll be back next week. We'll talk Dover, believe it or not, ready for the first cut race in the chase. It happens quick. And in the meantime, enjoy the New Hampshire race weekend, everybody.